It's showtime! That's right, it's time for today's live, and I am making sure my audio settings are right, actually, because I have a feeling... Nope, we're good. Sometimes what happens is the audio goes from my rig here to my computer, and then we end up with this weird, like, room echo. So if that ever happens, let me know. And yes, my glasses are glaring. Someday I will figure out. Someday I'll figure out the lighting setup. But that's okay. So today is a live recording. Hello, Empty Knives. Today is a live recording of the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. It's the Homestead Happenings update that we do once a week, except for we missed last week because I was in Maine. If you want to get more of these, if you want to get notified, I'm fixing my hair because it's doing the wispy thing. If you want to get notifications of these, be sure to hit subscribe and then click on the bell button and choose select all for notifications. That'll notify you. If you've already done that and there is somebody that you think should listen to this, just give them a share it to them, bring them into the live chat. Today, we're going to be talking about lots of things. I will record the podcast as usual, where I wait 5 seconds and then start. And then I will do the Q&A afterwards. We're inviting any Holler Neighbors in who are available. I know Tactical is going to be on. We have 2 new Holler Neighbors that may or may not make it. I don't know if Jenny is working or not, but I sent out the link to everybody. And that's sort of an Ask Us Anything. Nate Lemester knows how to reduce glasses glare. Good morning. Good morning, Strong Root Resources. So Nate, you got to help me out, man. I know it's like I have to backlight and side light and top light, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that and still have a workspace I can work in. So, but I do have 2 monitors here, so it's like double doomed. My other glasses don't glare as badly as these. These have like the blue coat on it so that I can do that. Anyway, we're going to be talking about lots of fun stuff today. And just if you have questions, guys, in the chat, put the couple first words in all caps if you want me to see it. Otherwise, I assume that you are talking to each other. Good day, Tiger Paw 1129. And because these eyes are not as young as they used to be, I don't always see things accurately that are not in all caps. That's right. So just please do me a favor. Couple words in all caps. I know it's a pain in the butt on your cell phone. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. I don't think you're yelling at me. I just think you're like, hey, let's get Nicole's attention. All right. So with that, I'm going to go into the podcast recording. I'm not going to play the music this time. And the reason is when I pull this out for my audio podcast later, it distorts the intro. I think I need to re-record that intro completely. But it distorts the intro even more than it's kind of distorting now because it's a recording. It's sort of a room recording that a friend did for me. So I think we may be doing an update on that, the little jingle, and then... yeah, anyway, it'll be more studio quality with this beautiful mic right here. So with that, I'm going to go into the podcast now. There'll be a 5-second pause. We're going to start with Homestead Happenings. We'll end it, another 5-second pause, and then I'm going to take questions. Okay, let's do this thing. Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, September 2nd, 2022, and this is episode 615 of Living Free in Tennessee, and it is a Homestead Happenings day where we talk about catching up, and I've been gone for 2 weeks. Last week I was in Maine. On Friday we did an interview show, so we've got 2 weeks to catch up to, all crammed into one thing. Tactical Redneck was taking care of the homestead by himself while I was gone. Well, Nighthawk was helping too, but mostly by himself because Nighthawk has a day job. So that's going to be a lot of things to cram into one show. We're going to talk about what we did to integrate the livestock guardian dogs with the sheep and how that's going, what late summer gardening is looking like, simplifying infrastructure plans, and a whole bunch more. This time of year, you feel like spring was crazy, and then it kind of lulls out in the middle of the summer, and now we have all of the fall harvest coming on. So it's like this acceleration on the homestead while we are also preparing for winter temperatures. And it gets really busy between now and about mid-November, and then we kind of chill out again, except for that everything's harder in the frozen. So when we have freezing days, everything's harder in the frozen. Luckily, in Tennessee, We don't have that many freezing days yet in November as a rule of thumb. It can happen. There has been snow in December, but usually we don't get hit till like late December, mid to mid January. That's when the snow stuff is happening. So that is what it is. Hello, Tracy. Anyway, I've got this going live too, guys who are just on the audio podcast. This weekend, I am presenting for Live Free Academy, and that's over at livefree.academy. I've got a link in the show notes if you're interested. They're doing a webinar with a bunch of different really great speakers, homesteading on a budget. And I think this is a really great topic to talk about. Our friends over at the YouTube channel, Homesteading on a Budget, they do a great job of talking about ways to reduce how much money it takes to get your homestead going. But I think what I like about how this is being organized is it's not just the cheapest way to homestead, because sometimes when you do things cheaply, it takes a large investment of time. And so finding that balance on a homestead is tricky, and it requires some forethought and some planning and some purpose about what's important to you, what you can realistically take care of, what your skills are, what your network has. So the Homesteading on a Budget webinar, it's like an online class thing, is going to be tomorrow, starting at 9, ending at 5 at Live Free Academy. And I have put a link in the show notes. I've put a link directly to that in the chat of YouTube, so you can see it. It's here. And if you want to sign up, like, go check that out. I'll be talking about a couple of things. One is getting value from things on your homestead to reduce what you have to spend, like growing and processing your own food, and analyze, like, the importance of how to analyze that to see if that's actually costing you more than just buying this stuff. And then if it is, do you still do that? And why you might or might not do that. I'm also talking about frugality of time, ways to organize on the homestead that save you time so that you can do what most homesteaders end up doing, which is at least one of us is working and we're maintaining all these animals and we're preserving our food and, right? So it's really important when you get into this lifestyle to start thinking about, how do I structure these systems so they feed each other? That's why permaculture and homesteading go hand in hand. But also, what do I really want to do? Because if I'm working all the time on my homestead and on my job, and I don't have time to do some of the things I like to do, or if I don't like doing that, that's an important life decision. And so you really got to think about your goals and all of that stuff. So that webinar is this weekend, that workshop, a digital workshop. It's like a PC term. Anyway, that digital workshop is at livefree.academy, or just click on the link. It'll take you straight to the item so you don't have to filter through all their stuff. And that's in the show notes. It's also in the chat of YouTube if you are on the live feed. I can't wait to give my presentation. And I had some people over for dinner last night, and they're like, "Are you ready, Nicole?" I'm like, "Well, not really." They're like, "Uh-oh, you better get on it. You only have one more day." I'm like, "No, the outline's done. I haven't put my slides together." So today's all about getting any photographs of examples into slides. My slides are not like an outline. I don't think it's very valuable to just put words on the screen that people can read, and then you read the words. I like to have pictures of things and show people how things work. So that's my day ahead. That's going to be the fun part of today. Also, if you want to email questions about anything or feedback, you can do that, Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com. That's Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com, or head on over to livingfreeintennessee.com, click on contact, and those emails go to me. It is now time for the first segment of today's show. That's where we talk about forage. This is what we're finding out and about. And having been gone for a week last week and had sort of a crazy week this week, it's always like the first week back from being gone, you're like, ah! Also, think while it's still legal. One of my favorite SOE shirts is think while it's still legal. I love this one. I need like 5 of them because I'm going to wear it out. Anyway, I haven't been out and about as much, but I have been making myself take walks. And then the walk situation in the holler is a little weird with the livestock guardian dogs because they haven't met my dog. So I don't want to walk by that. There's some other dogs down. So my walk length has been truncated pretty badly. And I'm looking forward to a few weeks from now. Hopefully we will have that fixed, but we don't have it fixed yet. So we're going to do what we do. But I have gotten some walks in, and if you follow me on TikTok or if you follow this YouTube channel, you will see that this is the week that pawpaws are ripe. And I'll get like 6 or 7 pawpaws, guys. There are a bunch of pawpaws growing wild up on the north-facing slope of the hill, kind of near water. That's how pawpaws grow here. And they grow on the edge. So the ones that are producing are a combination of shade and sun that they're getting, but not too much sun. And this tells me where I should plant pawpaws if I'm going to plant them on my property, which is to say, not the blazing south-facing slope, which is my property. So I will get 5 or 6. If I wanted more, I could go into the woods and get more. But for the next week or 2, while they stay in my fridge, I'll have one or a half of one every day. And it's sort of my seasonal pawpaw experience. I love to do it. Pawpaws are one of North America's native fruits. They're the largest native fruit that's here. Other larger fruits that are growing in this continent were brought in when it was settled by the Europeans, basically. And pawpaws are delicious. They taste like banana meets pear. And some people don't like them because of the mouthfeel, because it's like a consistency of pudding or custard when they're ripe. When they're not ripe, they taste like astringent chalk. So it's very important. You shake the tree when we harvest them. The ones that fall are ripe. We don't shake the tree super hard because then the unripe ones will fall. And so I call it tree shaking season. So that's happening. The watercress is perfect. In fact, I meant to go harvest some yesterday and my time got away from me a little bit yesterday. I'm harvesting watercress today. Watercress salad for dinner tonight. Watercress sort of tastes like radish or radish greens, and it makes a great foundation for a salad. And I'll probably get some of my Malabar spinach and wilt that and make a big old yummy salad for dinner tonight. And then we're having all the leftover meats of the week. There's like 1 serving of each dinner that we had left. So that's what's for dinner tonight. Sorry, anybody who's eating dinner here tonight. It's leftover night or this and that night. That's kind of the fun thing. This and that night. That's how you use up your leftovers. And I have a tendency to land on Friday and be like, okay, there's roast, there's other roast, there's pork, there's actually the rabbit night. Tactically ate all the rabbits. So we'll see. If I have to augment, I always throw a couple bratwurst in there and that sort of thing. So that's the watercress. Goldenrod is ready to harvest, has been for weeks. Mullein seeds are coming on right now too. So mullein is a great herbal plant to have in your toolkit, and it grows where soil has been disturbed. It grows in rock cracks. It grows places where you're like, why is a plant even growing there? And so when it puts its seeds on, it comes on a big stalk. I'll harvest the stalk and like shake it out in a Ziploc baggie or something, or in a bucket. And then I go look at everywhere where I think plants shouldn't grow, and I'll throw it there. And every so often, some of the seeds take. And I do that at this time of year, right when the seeds are drying out and falling. Mullein has a 2-year life cycle. So year 1, it's this plant that has sort of velvety leaves and no flower. Year 2, it puts up a tall stalk with yellow flowers. You can use the leaves and the flowers for if you're starting to get a cold. It's a good cold preventative or helping with those symptoms or helping speed up getting over it. People with asthma smoke it. That's an old Native American remedy, I believe. It's Native American. Or it's also called cowboy toilet paper. So it can be used. It's a tough leaf that stands up to abuse, but it's also soft. Not absorbent, but soft. So if you need to scrape something off, then it's a really good tool for that as well. And, it's been a while since the toilet paper crisis of 2020, but I'm just saying, if you're out in the woods and need a leaf, I would rather grab mullein than a poison ivy leaf. So learn your plants, guys, because I know somebody who once grabbed a big, beautiful poison ivy leaf, and it was like a month and a half of not happy. So always good to know what you're wiping with in the woods. Anyway, that's the forage. I didn't know we were going there today. That's the forage segment for today. Next up, we're going to talk about livestock. This is just where we talk about what's happening with the animals on the homestead. The rabbits, we have one female rabbit right now who is ready to be bred. She has been bred in theory. And we've been having trouble with accomplishing pregnancy in rabbits. The last one who got pregnant actually died when she was giving birth, we think, or before she was giving birth, and that was sad. It was also I was thinking about it, it got really hot that week. And while she was in the shade, I'm not sure if it wasn't just like combination of being pregnant and hot. So 4 weeks from now, we'll see if that took. I think what's been keeping her from getting pregnant is that she was overweight. So she's on a diet. We were free feeding the rabbits, and that's a bad idea, apparently. So I learned that lesson the hard way by just supporting freeloaders for the last year. And then I learned that if they get too fat, they do not reproduce like rabbits. And rabbits are supposed to be easy. So far, rabbits are the hardest livestock for me to take care of out of all the livestock we've done, including the larger livestock, including the pigs. Rabbits are just not reaching their goals. On the other hand, rabbits are worth keeping just for the poop because that is so awesome in the garden. So I've at least gotten that benefit out of it. And speaking of homesteading on a budget, I have not done rabbits right. I'll probably talk about that tomorrow in more detail on what we were trying to do versus what really happened and why we either have to get our poop in a scoop or we need to get rid of the rabbits, right? That's how you make those decisions. You track things. Now I'm going to talk about the LGDs. So we got LGDs, as you know, a few weeks ago. And when they got here, they were oriented on goats. They are rather young, so they're not, they're not trained up adult LGDs who you orient on your flock and you just go for it. And we didn't get them as like super baby puppies, so they didn't like grow up with the sheep as babies. So we had a couple challenges. One, the LGDs were not taught all of the basic dog commands, although leave it, oddly enough, they understood what that meant. So I don't know if they know by my tone of voice or they had been taught leave it. They don't come when you call their names. They did not know how to sit. They did not know how to be on a leash. And what I want from a dog, basic commands, is it can be on a leash if I need it without freaking out. We're still working on that. It can load up into my car and load out. It can sit. It can stay. It can leave it. It can drop it. And I want it to come when I call it. I don't know if I already said that. So it needs to know no. And I was working with Nick Ferguson because some people are like, if you do that to an LGD, it won't kill things that it needs to kill, like coyotes or other dogs. And so I talked to Nick and I said, what would you do? And he's like, I would teach it all of those things because if you have to take that dog to the vet, you need to get it in your car. You need to take it to the vet. And you can absolutely have an LGD who responds to your commands, also be trained on the animals, take care of the animals, and annihilate any threats. So I've been ignoring most of the advice of not Nick Ferguson and just listening to Nick Ferguson, who has trained more than one LGD in a way to annihilate threats. And the issue we had was one of the dogs was afraid. Like, here's what happened to these dogs. They were being trained by a different LGD, their mother. One day, two people showed up, threw them in a car, drove them to a strange place, and there they were by themselves without their mother. And that was a lot of change for the dogs. And they are, friendly with us, but they were also like, one of them was really afraid of me in particular. So we worked on that, and we worked on establishing them or orienting them on a home. So the first thing we did after losing one of them and getting it back is we set up dog knocks with some cattle panels. There was electric wiring. They're terrified of the electric wiring. That was actually kind of an issue at first. We had to make them afraid of it so they don't go through it, but not so afraid of it that they cowered in their little dog hut. And then we had cattle panels where the sheep can't get in and the dogs could be with straw bedding and a cover and delicious food all the time and water. And, so we left them there for a week, and the sheep and the dogs could touch noses through the cattle panels, but they could not get to each other. At this point, my biggest worry was not the dogs hurting the sheep. It was the sheep hurting the dogs, because Henry, who's the head ram at this time, who plans to graduate this year, he will charge and headbutt, which on one hand, that's good, because if something got into the pasture, you need the ram to take care of them. Well, the whole point of the LGDs is they do that. And I have a problem with having people take care of the sheep if Henry doesn't know who they are. And he's gotten tactical a couple times. So we just decided, and I think that Don, who we got them from, was already kind of going this direction too, that he's probably going to end up graduating, and we will let Floki take over the herd, which will happen. And Brownie, who is definitely third in command right now. It's funny how, like, the way I want it to be is the way they are. So I was afraid Henry was going to charge the dogs, hurt one of the dogs, a hurt dog that's an LGD will go after whatever hurt it. And then we were going to have dead sheep or a big problem. So we left them to where they could talk, like interact through talk to each other, they smell each other. That's how animals talk to each other, in body language, through the fencing. And the dogs went from what the hell are those to excited when they were coming home at night, because right now they were taking them out to the pasture, bringing them back to a barn at night. And the reason we want to get away from this is that means they're encountering their own defecant, their own poop in the evenings, and that's more exposure to a worm load, right? Because the whole point with ruminants is you rotate them so they don't go where their poop was. You rotate them every 3 days, and then they don't go where their poop was, and then if there's worms in the poop, they don't accidentally eat that, and then you have a lot less problem with worms. And we have not been able to do that for 2 months. They've been on this great pasture every day, but we still close them in the barn. The other thing is that sheep eat after they do a cycle right at dusk / right after dark. And so we were feeding them hay during that time. And so fattening them up has been a bit of a challenge in this particular regard. Okay, so we did that for a week, and Tactical started letting the dogs out into the barnyard / access to the barn as soon as the sheep left every morning, so that they could smell where the sheep slept and all of that. And they just started regarding the sheep as friends. He waited till I got back for the next step. He was letting the sheep out into the yard at night when the dogs were closed in. He was letting the dogs out at night after the sheep were closed in. There was a whole lot of letting animals smell where the other animal had been. And the other trick is you need to keep the sheep away from the dog food, because that'll cause all sorts of problems. Do not feed your sheep dog food. So then I got back, and my first day back was Sunday, and I told Tactical I really think it's better Monday for us to integrate, or Tuesday. I had somebody in town. So I had somebody in town Sunday. Monday, I said, let's wait till Tuesday when I'm not trying to produce a podcast and it's a little less crazy. It's not my first day back. We'll integrate the dogs. And this means one of us needs to be in the pasture with the dogs and the sheep all day on a rotation until we know that we're not going to have sheep charging the dogs or dogs charging the sheep. And so we went over Tuesday morning together, and I brought my journal to do my outline for my presentation this coming weekend. And I got a camp chair, and we let the sheep out first. And then we brought the dogs up, and getting the dogs to follow us out of that yard area where we had oriented them was a little tricky, because it was like something new. And when animals have something new, they're like, I don't know about this. I mean, sheep are the same way. It took them, despite the fact that they came from an environment where they are regularly rotated. The first 2 or 3 times we rotated the sheep, they're like, we don't know if we want to follow you. You are not our people, right? So we convinced the dogs to come out. They had to cross an area where there had formerly been an electric fence. And we've been trying to make the electric fence very visible to the dogs so they know what to look for. And we had to like take it all the way, that whole wall, and then tempt them with treats for one of them to cross it. Then when one of them crossed it, the other one's like, oh, that's gone. I don't see the little stripes, right? And so they came into the pasture, but they were not quite sure they wanted to follow us. So it took them a while, and then they came out, and then sheep and dogs all greeted each other and were super happy. And then the dogs were more oriented on us than the sheep at first, because we're, the security. Tactical had also taken a dog crate and made it so you have to squish under a little barrier into the dog crate to get food, so that the sheep could not get the dog food, but the dogs could get the dog food. And we had water, and we set up like the same sort of shelter in the pasture that they had down there. We also left access back to their original place where they have oriented on, so that it wasn't like, and you don't have access to home anymore. And it took about 15 minutes. And then the most timid one, Max, he was like, I like the sheep. I'm just going to go hang out with them. And he went and he laid down by them and watched them eat. And he tried eating some grass and looked a little confused, I think, because he saw them eating grass. So he's like, I'll eat grass. Not good. And then Miles took longer, but he also started hanging out with the sheep. And I sat there for a couple hours, and then Tactical was there for a few hours. And then we decided we could probably leave them for an hour and check back. And so then we got to a cycle of checking in all day, made sure that their food was full. So there was no like, I'm hungry, I need to eat a sheep things going on. And that night we left the sheep out. I think the dogs ended up sleeping with the sheep that night, even though they had access to their home. And by that point, Tactical had set up a way for the dogs to get under something to get to their home kennel, versus the sheep, who don't tend to skitter on their belly under things. And so that day, we came the next morning, the shelter that he had put up had blown down, but everybody was happy. And then the next day, it was time for the sheep to move paddocks. So he opened up a new paddock and ended up setting up the shelter that the dogs were now following on the hill. And we did cut off their access to their home base kennel, just because the dogs will go back to the barn no matter what. They really like the barn, and the sheep like the barn too. Henry's figured out how to skitter under that little thing and get back to the barn. So Tactical said, I just had to cut it off. And the dogs are doing great with the sheep. Will they annihilate a coyote if it comes? I don't know. They have killed a coyote already at the other property with the help of their mom. I don't know if they will. Typically, dogs this young won't, but they will bark when they see problems. And often barking is enough. Plus, we have electrical up. So that's where we're at with the LGDs. They also still need to train. They like us, but they seem to like the sheep more, which is exactly what we're going for. Nick was saying, don't do a lot of belly rubs and all of the things that you would do with your pet dogs. That you can pet them on the head, but kind of keep the physical interaction to a minimum and do more training with food motivation, so that they orient on the sheep better. And the sheep have totally accepted the dogs. So I would call that a success. It was like high drama stress here, trying to figure out if this was going to go well or not, just because like what we didn't need was an LGD that doesn't work. You know, I saw an ad on Facebook for an LGD that failed. And what it does is it kills sheep. And it was supposed to protect the sheep. And so now they're trying to rehome it as a pet dog. Like imagine like this giant LGD pet dog. But so far we're having good success with the LGDs. I just heard, and the great thing about this is the sheep can now stay out on pasture overnight. And that makes it a lot easier. So I've said that sheep are 4 times the work. Part of that is the leading in and out of the barn every day, and putting hay down to make sure they keep eating, because ruminants need to eat a lot of volume, has been part of that challenge. And then when we separated the girls from the boys, you know, it's like you have two flocks of sheep about 1/10 of a mile apart, a little more than 1/10 of a mile apart. So it's like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So the last, you know, so this was Tuesday, it's now Friday. So it's been 3 days of this. But the cool thing is, while Tactical does go over there at night to make sure the dog food is topped off, and we've been moving them a little more slowly through the pasture than they're eating it, and adding hay just for easing in the dogs and not having too much change at one time. It's been already a lot easier, and I'm really glad we got the LGDs at this, even though I was really hesitant. I did not want to add dogs. I've already got there are 3 dogs at my property. 2 of them are mine. 1 is Tactical's. There's a dog next door at Nighthawk's property. We have new Holler Neighbors moving in. They have 2 dogs. That's a lot of dogs. And that's a lot of things that can go wrong if the wrong dog gets out and goes after an animal, right? So adding LGDs to that who could kill the dogs, and they're supposed to, really, if the dogs go after something, had me in high stress. That being said, we have not yet oriented the LGDs on our dogs, and I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that. Like right now, they're just not seeing each other. They're way over there. My dogs are over here. I'm taking walks in the other direction. And at some point, I need to be able to have the LGDs with the sheep and my dog's not losing their shit and the LGDs not losing their shit with the electric fence between them, and have that communicated, the difference between my dogs and stray dogs. Although if my dogs get aggressive for the sheep, the LGDs should also do what they're supposed to do to my dogs, right? My dogs won't be aggressive to sheep. They're actually afraid of sheep. They don't want anything to do with the electric fencing. They don't want anything to do with the sheep. So that part is fine. What I'm afraid of is when they see other dogs, they'll be like, you're on my property, right? So I've been talking to Nick about dealing with that. I decided that until I know the LGDs are better trained, oriented on the sheep really well, doing their job over there, I'm not going to worry about one more variable. And I may talk to him and he may be like, actually, what you need to do, Nicole, is take your dog over there and make it submit to you in front of the LGD so the LGD sees that. I mean, he may say that. I don't know. I'm just glad that it's gone so well this far and that we now have, so coyote season. Right now, the coyotes are not super aggressive against livestock because they have all this abundance out there. As the food wanes, that's when they're more likely to attack your cats, your dogs, your livestock. And so we're coming into fall, which means we're coming into coyote season, fall and winter. And so having these guys ready to go is great. I'm also going to get some cameras down there at some point. We just haven't done that yet. Birthing update. Okay. Everybody's pregnant except for the rabbits. No. So the sheep were bred before we got them. And we don't know if it took or not for sure because I haven't gotten an ultrasound because I figure I'm going to know when little lambs come out of the sheep, right? So, do I really need to know with an ultrasound and paying the vet to come out? Homesteading on a budget? No. It's one of those, you'll know when you can look for signs. And I think at least one of them is pregnant, but they're not so eminent that they have dropped udders. And, but we still have girls separated from boys so they can give birth. And so the girls are over at my house rotating through my 3 acres. And so far I haven't seen udders getting bigger. When I start seeing udders getting bigger, I have seen some fat looking bellies though. So hopefully we will have baby sheep, little lambs born here. We'll see. And if not, then we'll breed them again. I'm pretty sure 2 of the 3 are pregnant and one of them I'm not sure, or maybe she just has one because like sheep have twins and triplets very often. I've learned so much about sheep from Dawn's books that she left for me. Thanks, Dawn. I need to order copies of those for my own because I'm pretty sure they're going to have sheep again and want their books back. Anyway, so that's happening. Also, the pig is due on Labor Day. I don't know how I managed to do that. I didn't. Nature did. So she's due Labor Day. We've got her separated from LB. LB is for sale. Lady Pig is going to be for sale after she gives birth. I don't know if we're going to take the weanlings through the full 8 weeks until they're weaned or not. But somebody wanted to buy her as is. And I was like, not 4 days from giving birth. I'm sorry. Probably the pig would be fine with transport, but it's a traumatic experience for an animal to move from the only home they've known to another home. And then when you're also about to give birth, I feel like that will increase the chances of problems with birth. So she is going to be for sale. She's an Idaho pasture pig. She's great. Really like her. It's just that we have too much to manage and our land is not set up well for pigs. If we could buy the land across the road and put in some more permanent infrastructure, it would work better, but we have not been able to buy it. And And if we lease it, then we put infrastructure up. It's like harder to justify putting thousands of dollars into fencing, and fencing is the issue. So she has been rotating through the base camp acreage, and they've been sealing the pond. They've done a great job so far. We need to cut down some trees to finish that project. That's probably not happening till winter at the earliest, if it even happens this year. And she is due. She has also not dropped milk, so she's not that due. So the cool thing is we've been through birth with the pig once, and it's very obvious when, like, she's got a big belly. She's got some I'm producing milk soon things going on, but it's not like goo. What happens is the pig will drop milk and she will start running around the pasture, picking up things and making a nest. And I think I know where she's going to make her nest, but she has not done that yet. And I remember the day she was in labor, she didn't stop moving all day. She was like running, making, running, making, running, making. And at 10 o'clock that night, the first pig dropped. So once we see that behavior, that's when we know to watch for piglets. And then we're going to have to figure a creative way out to get baby pigs away from mama pig at about 2 weeks of age without them squealing. If baby pigs squeal, mama pig will charge you and she will hurt you. Okay. And we don't have hard fencing now. We just have electric fencing. And I don't think she'll give 2 cares about that electric fencing if we have squealing pigs. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to happen. But hopefully our plan at this point is once she gives birth is to hang out in the pasture a lot with her until she's comfortable with us touching the pigs, which took a little bit of time last time, and bring pig treats, which means apples and strawberries and that sort of thing. Get them interested in it, get her interested in it, and hopefully make it so we can handle the babies without them squealing, and then take them way far away from where she is, get them neutered and bring them back. And she won't, because last time she literally almost pushed over a post that was sunk 4 feet into the ground. Like, we would have had to shoot the pig. It would have been terrible. So really that challenge of neutering is going to be crazy, but you want to get the boys done at about 2 weeks or it becomes harder and harder. And then, I mean, that's all for the livestock. I guess the ducks are on egg pods, which means they're molting. I haven't seen like the feathers everywhere, but I haven't looked for it. This means we're going to need to clip the wings of the muscovies again, which is an adventure every time because we have to catch them. And that's kind of a tricky thing. Next segment is Grow. This is where we talk about the plants that are coming off the land. The one thing I thought I had failed at this year that was making me pretty sad was that I've been saving seeds from Jack Spirko's jalapenos, which they have a delicious jalapeno flavor. And they are not super hot. There's a little bit of spice, but it's not like I have some jalapenos I got at the farmer's market that if I use one, it's like cry hot, right? Which is a problem. Even with the seeds out of it, they're that hot. So they did a good job of making capsaicin this year. His have that delicious jalapeno flavor without being super hot. And he's been developing these seeds for many years. I got some seeds from him a few years ago. So this is my 3rd season with these on the property. And my peppers did really crappy this year. And I had purposely only put Jack Spirko jalapenos under Taj Mahaler. And then I have one other variety up way far away so that we wouldn't accidentally cross-pollinate each other or less likely to. The ones up there, dead. They're just, I've gotten like 2 ghost peppers from one plant up there, and that's been it. Down here, they weren't doing much. And I'm happy to report, having come back from Maine, to a okay looking plant with about 10 jalapenos on it that are growing. And that's awesome because that means I'll get seeds again for next year and I can try again. And I think next year I'm not allowing other varieties of jalapenos. I'm just going to dedicate the space to it. I keep trying to grow bell peppers and I am not doing a good job with the bell peppers. I'm not sure I'm trying them next year if I'm just going to buy them. But if we're going to do bell peppers next year, it will be in pots, probably with a automated drip system for water. And that is what's up with that. We are resetting 2 garden beds. So the squash is basically ready to harvest, the winter squash. And it looks like crap because it's getting attacked by things. And I am going to harvest all of that. And we're resetting those 2 beds for fall garlic planting. I am asking, I don't know if I'll get this done, but Carrie's coming over to help because I'm out of time. And I'm going to be looking at ways to integrate drip irrigation into those 2 rows while we're at it. I already have supplies for it. I have had it for 5 years. I put it in once and apparently you need a pressure regulator before you hook it up, and blew off all the fittings, threw my hands up, said a bad word, walked away, threw the crap into the workshop and haven't looked at it since. So after this year of water challenges, we're going to build the drip irrigation into the upper garden in zones so that we can, figure out what goes where, but hopefully we'll get to that. I'll talk about what Carrie's really doing first in the infrastructure section. So I don't know if he'll get to the beds. And if he doesn't, my Garden 30 is still happening. I haven't been live streaming them. I will again. It's just been, it's actually been my bottleneck is related to internet connection up there. And I need, like, when it's super hot out, my phone overheats and turns off the stream. And so if I'm up there on a hot day, which has just been hot, it doesn't work. So as soon as it's cool enough, I will go back to doing Garden 30s. And at this point, Garden 30 is harvesting some things, pulling some weeds, and resetting beds. That's what I'm working on. And then making sure the watering's done under Taj Mahal, which needs automated watering very badly, because that is part of why the jalapenos didn't do well. Is there were times when I was out of town that it didn't get watered every day. It has to be watered sometimes twice a day when it's hot under the sun, and it's in black pots, man. So that's a thing. So the final squash harvest is happening. I'll probably get some pictures of that. We did Cushaw this year. They did great. If you've seen my video about the 23-pound squash I harvested, that's a Cushaw. It's seeds I've saved myself. And the thing is, I've had other squashes on the property. So I have this one Cushaw squash that's green partway up, and then it turns yellow. And I think that's because it crossed with a Tromboncino. That's my theory. And then my Tromboncinos have had a little bit of color, like variation on their skin. So I think everybody crossed, and I'll probably get fresh Tromboncino squash seeds next year if I can source them. And then we'll see what the Cushaw does next year from the big 23-pound Cushaw squash. That's the seed I'm saving for Cushaw. And the way you can actually isolate squash blossoms and pollinate them from the same plant, and then that you have it done right. But I didn't do that this year either. So we will see. See what I get. I don't actually mind Franken squash, and squash is not like a big part of my winter food plan, because we eat a little bit of squash, but it's more of a high carb thing. So we eat a lot more of the meat and the broccoli and stuff like that, the green beans that are put up in the jars. My new row, so my first row of beans that took me 2 plantings to get to go is winding up. I did 2 more jars off of that this week. The second row I planted where the potatoes were is just now starting to produce beans, and it looks like it's doing a good job. Its only problem is that God has not sent rain. And so when you're using sprinklers to water, I swear it is just not as good as when the rains come, the plants, like, they look joyous and happy. And when I sprinkle them, they're like, okay, man, I'll stay alive, but this is not enough. So, and I think that's because the ground wicks the water away. That's my theory on that. But we are expecting rain tomorrow. I really hope we get it. And I don't know if I'm going to make my goal of 50 jars of green beans, but we'll see. I'm 12 jars away, but that's a lot of green beans. Actually, that's a good half bushel of green beans I need right now still to get to that goal. And we'll see if this third row produces, because there is certainly nothing much to buy at the farmer's market at this time of year. Everybody's talking about how the crops are down. So I'm really glad that I just started planting beans every couple weeks on spec. I have a few plants in my original row of the dragon's tongue, but that didn't do very well. I'm not going to do another seeding at this point. They are up. They're about, 9 to 10 inches tall. They're starting to put flowers on. And they're super unhappy with the state of how dry it is this year. The tomatoes, every year you hear me talk about my tomatoes falling to blight. This year I planted aspirin with them, and that it was either this year or that helped. They do have some sort of a strange disease that is not your typical blight, but they are still producing tomatoes. My tomatoes also do not get rained on, and they do not contact soil. I've gotten a little over 100 pounds. My goal was 200 pounds off the tomato wall in front of my house, and they've been delicious. I served one last night with dinner, and I will still get more. The plants are starting to die, though, and I have new plants coming up. I don't know if it'll be enough, and I have been threatening to trim them, and I never got the trimming done before I went out of town for a week. So that is happening today and tomorrow, and the next day I'll be doing a lot of plant maintenance this weekend. And that is part of it, is making room for the new tomatoes, topping the tomatoes so that they just focus on the fruits that they have. I've probably, I look out there at what's on the vine right now, and I've got about another 15, 20 pounds, and then we're done with these. So I'm looking at 120 to 140 pounds of tomatoes, which is short of my goal. But the thing is, we are a month after when my tomatoes die usually from late blight. So I'm calling it a win at this point that they're still producing tomatoes, and at a volume that I am actually still canning tomatoes. I did not end up with as much salsa as I usually get, but that's because it was a crummy year. I can't buy tomatoes right now in volume. It's weird. But you know what's going to happen? Right when Self-Reliance Festival happens on October 1st and 2nd, that's when the tomatoes are going to come on. It's going to be like salsa making weekend, but I will be working the event. So we all know that's happening because that's Murphy's Law of vegetables this year. Next segment is Holler Neighbors and Community. This is where we talk about what's going on in the community. We've got new Holler Neighbors moving in this week, and they may or may not join us on the live stream. I think they're going to try to. They are in the chat, or were in the chat, and they are using Basecamp, so temporarily renting Basecamp while they search for their forever homestead. And when they reached out to me and said they were just sort of looking, they didn't know if it was 1 month or 6 months. It just depends on how long it takes to find something. I was like, sure, we'll give it a shot. So that's going to be a whole new chapter here. And the other thing that's going on in the community is this weekend, Nighthawk is foremaning and heading up a build of the structure for outdoor showers at Special Operations Equipment, so that there are showers there October 1st and 2nd for everybody who's rustic camping, which I'm sure everybody will appreciate. I asked for 5 people to volunteer, and I got 5 volunteers, and 3 of them had other things come up to keep them from coming. So I then reached out to somebody in our network who lives kind of close to there and said, can you just go over and help on Saturday? And he said yes. And thank you for that. So that's somebody from the community, from the LFTN community, who just has my back. So they're going to be there. And then there's one other person from the SOE community showing up. There's only 3 people on the build. There's one person who had something come up who said, if late in the day you're not done, give me a call and I'll come help. My theory is they will probably be building on Sunday as well as Saturday. That starts at 9 o'clock on Saturday. If you're hearing this and you live near Camden and you know how to run a drill or a saw, let me know. I was trying to keep it to 5 people so that everybody's doing something, but it's not just like a big party. The whole point is to get an 8x6 foot structure with a screen down the middle that can be set up for 2 showers with the drain set up, and I would like to have 4-inch pipe buried to the swale. Talked to Nighthawk last night. I said the most important thing is the structure is up, because we can do the plumbing. Like the plumbing, I'm not even worried about. The plumbing's super easy. But the structure needs to be up and the water catch under it set up. If we don't get the drain buried this weekend, the burying of the drain is actually not that big of a challenge, right? So he's really just focusing on getting the wood part done, and then hopefully it gets all done in one weekend. The reason we're doing it this weekend is if it's not done this weekend, somebody needs to come back next weekend and finish it out. However, I have seen Nighthawk and this other person from my network bang out a composting outhouse in a day. So I'm hoping that with that skill set, we can get it done. And then we have a third person helping who is no slouch to homestead projects. We'll just put it that way. Anyway, that's what's going on in the community. Infrastructure wise on the homestead, I think I've mentioned about 400,000 times that sheep take a lot more work than we thought. And the biggest issue is the movable fence on our steep land and on the neighbor's steep land. And the fact that it's their first time through, so we have a lot of vegetation that's just in the way. We don't have, it's so steep we can't bush hog on it, even if we had a bush hog. Hello, Grumpy Acres Farm. Guys, by the way, in the chat, we're about done with the podcast. So if you have Q&A about anything, start putting it in. First few words in all caps. I know Tactical will be joining, and I think some other people will be joining, and you will know. It'll be the big reveal of who the new Holler Neighbor edition will be. Anyway, the process of setting up a pasture for the sheep takes about a day, and then they last about a day, and so it's like you're always one day ahead, and that's been a huge challenge. But I talked to Tactical the other day because he's also like, I can't set it up too far in advance because I don't have enough fencing. And I said, well, how much are those posts? Like, can we just run the posts without the wire and get it set in advance? And we started talking, and he was like, well, I don't want to put a bunch of T-posts somewhere where I don't own the property. I was like, T-posts come back out, man. And if something were to change suddenly with the arrangement we have over there, I mean, knowing the people involved, they're going to give us a few days to take the posts out and move everything. Like, you don't just say tomorrow your sheep can't be here. Like, what are you going to do? Come out with your rifle and shoot them all? No, probably not. Especially not people who you basically get along with, right? So I said, let's look at this because, like, we cannot afford for you to be spending all day, every day setting up sheep paddocks for the rest of our lives. It's not a good use of time. And Tactical's joining. So guys, questions, first few words in all caps. So we started talking about a plan for kind of a perimeter fence that's electric with multiple strands and an 8-joule charger so that if it gets touched, it's a big kapowie. And then pulling off of that to divide it. Like he said, now that I can see the landscape, because the weeds were so high, he couldn't even see what was up, right? Now that he can see over there, he hasn't found the sinkhole yet, though. So somewhere in those weeds is a sinkhole. I have a better idea of how to route that. So hopefully in the next little while, there will be a perimeter fence that has electrical, and it's more about subdividing. And then hopefully we will also get more wire and reels and all of that. And the reason he hasn't gotten reels, so this is the other thing. So Tactical has experimented with many brands, I think 3 or 4 brands of reels. And if you want to know more about that, ask questions because he'll be on to answer them. And he's narrowed it down to 2 he really likes. He likes one feature of one and one feature of the other. He's now figuring out, can he unscrew this and put it over there? So reels are basically how we're getting the wires out, right, and in again. And he's figured out a combination of which fencing wire, which reels, which one he likes best, and then if he can take this from that, he'll do that. And with that in mind, I think he's going to do a video about all the pros and cons. Now he has a better idea of what he should order, and part of what is keeping us from being able to have 3 or 4 paddock shifts in advance is that we do the fencing on reels because that makes your whole life easier than trying to do it by hand. Like if you're going to do this kind of fencing, get reels. I didn't even know they existed. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's way easier than what I used to do with the goats, right? So that makes a huge time savings, but you have the reels there. You are confined by how far that reel can go. And then you need another reel if you're going to do another paddock. So that's all coming together. And then my Hillside Garden. So back at the beginning of spring, I had 3 things I wanted to work on. My 3 things on the homestead. And the one big important one, besides the garden and growing vegetables more this year than I had the year before, was my Hillside Garden, which has been a problem in my life since I made it. And so we redesigned the whole Hillside Garden so it will be easier to maintain. We got it all set up with mulch. And the first thing that happened is the guy who mows the lawn aimed his lawnmower at my Hillside Garden and sprayed a bunch of grass seed on it. I have been putting in about an hour a week on it, which is what I said I had time for when we planned it. I have a terrible mess because of that grass. Yeah. And I've been trying to get other plants to take over and choke out the grass. No, that grass, it's such a nightmare. I can't even begin to talk about it. I'm really pissed because we put a lot of time in to avoid this problem. And the first thing that happened is somebody sprayed grass seed all over it. And so Carrie is coming back out to help me with this problem. He's going to do a reset. And we're going to talk about other weed blocking strategies for the part that I maintain by hand. And then the other side where we were going to put in the aquaponics system in the pond. The pond is dug. That's like not really pond. It's like a water feature pond. It's not like a pond. The weeds are taller than tactical. It did not get done. The reason it didn't get done is that we got the sheep. And so Tactical was starting to build the aquaponics system. We needed to get it all leveled out for the beds and then the weed barrier down to stop the weeds from coming, and then wood chips on top of that or something. And that we didn't get to that benchmark. And then the sheep came, and you think about it, like the priority, is it controlling my Hillside Garden or is it keeping sheep happy and alive? And the second one's more important. So I'm not sad about this, but Carrie is coming out. Carrie, who's on this feed, knows he's coming out. He says he may have drip irrigation extras. Cool. To help us get this kind of back into a shape. The third thing about the Hillside Garden is we used stone to keep it like for the retaining wall. And between every stone is a crack. And a stone crack is also edge. You know what happens on the edge? Things love to grow on the edge. And I have been doing my best to keep the things I want in the rock cracks growing and keep the things out, but it's not perfect. Perilla likes to try to take over my life wherever I go. And the good thing is I found some chocolate mint and I planted chocolate mint in the cracks, and I'm pretty sure that chocolate mint is my crack weed of choice. But I'm also letting clover grow, and I put mullein seed out. I don't have any mullein out there yet, but that's like an example of where mullein would grow. And I would love to have mullein on my, in between rocks on the retaining wall. So that part's actually coming together now. At first I was a little overwhelmed because I was getting lamb's quarter, and I was letting the lamb's quarter go because I like lamb's quarter. But then it gets so tall, like it's also a stairway, and I can't have super tall plants. So the mint is actually a much better solution. So I think we're letting that go. The strawberries are starting to spread on the Hillside Garden, which is great. That's what I want. That's their point, is ground cover so grass doesn't kill me. But we're doing that reset. And those of you who come to my food forest install, October 28th and 29th, you will be able to see what progress we've made on the Hillside Garden. By the way, if you haven't got your ticket for that, it's at livingfreeintennessee.com. Last segment of today's show is finances. This is where we talk about the financial part of homesteading. We didn't sell anything. That's okay. I am feeding people for the shower build off of food produced here. So that's kind of cool, because I was like, oh crap, I got to feed these people. I won't be there. What do I do? Well, what I did is I took a butt from one of our pigs, threw it in the smoker, sending that out with Nighthawk. I'm going to actually buy some bacon because my bacon it's not cold enough to cold smoke the bacon. So we'll get some bacon to go out with him, and eggs. And I don't even know if we need the bacon and eggs, but we'll see, because everybody's getting there at 9 on Saturday. But they will have a delicious smoked butt to eat. And the investment on that, yes, it cost feed and time and all of that, but I didn't have to go to the store and buy a bunch of stuff to send out. And it's like, when you start seeing that happen on your homestead, you're like, this is great. The thing is, you have to look at your feed costs. So if you don't follow Billy Bond from Permapastures Farm, check out his YouTube channel. He talks about raising pigs without inputs. He talks about raising chickens without having to buy feed. He has other ways to do it. But those sorts of mindsets, you balance how much time it takes you to do the extra steps versus what that brings you. That's a really good way to produce food. The methods that he promotes is a great way to produce food without having to buy a lot of feed, which brings your costs down, and then it keeps your bill down at the grocery store. So that's about where we are on finances. We are entering a time where it's likely we'll be selling a bunch more, and then you're going to see different reports at this segment. Anyway, guys, that's the homestead update for today. As I said, we're going to be flowing into Q&A. We're going to be meeting the new Holler Neighbors, all sorts of stuff as we go into the next section. And if you want to talk to us, because we stay on as long as you're asking questions, put your first few words in all caps. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week. All right, we got Tactical on. I see some people in the background with big grins on their faces. It's time for the big reveal. So those of you who meet the new Holler Neighbors, if you've been to events here, you've already met the new Holler Neighbors. And that is something that's important as we build the community here. We like to know who lives in the house. So I'm gonna do the big reveal. You guys ready? You nodding? All right. All right. Hello. It's Steve and Tracy.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
Good. What time are you coming out today? You're moving out today, right?
Today, yeah. I'm trying to get off work a couple hours early, and
Yeah.
2.5 hour drive. So I'm hoping by 6, 7 o'clock at the latest we'll be there.
I have a truckload of Goodwill stuff in front of your house that hopefully Tactical is taking to Cookville before you get here. Yeah. I continued to purge after last time you were there, and like 5 more boxes appeared.
Of course.
In the purge pile. So anyway, what are you going to be working on this weekend?
Starting first thing in the morning, going to be building a chicken coop.
All right. And
Yep.
Tracy, are you staying the weekend, or are you just dropping him off and heading back home?
I'm going to stay the night tonight and then
Yeah,
come back home and finish packing up here.
She's going to help me get things arranged.
Yeah.
Because we just have boxes everywhere from, when you very nicely let us, pre-stage some things. So yeah.
It's a
That
mess.
was fine.
It's a mess, and I can't do that. I can't do messes.
Right.
So I'll be there to clean and start putting stuff away. And
Like, where does this all go? Yeah, I haven't cleared out the stuff out of the kitchen yet either. So
okay.
We'll work on
do
that.
that together. Yeah.
Yeah, it can just go into the. Well, I'm presenting tomorrow, so I'm going to be completely useless to you tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I'll be leaving probably tomorrow morning sometime.
Yeah. But anything that's in your way, just put in the basement on the shelves, and I'll deal with it. I'll box it all up and stuff. There's not a lot there. There's like a set of pots and pans and some other stuff like that. Anyway, okay. So guys on the audience, what do you think? You excited about the Eversoles being in the holler?
And thank you, Carrie, for your comment.
Yeah, thanks,
Appreciate
Carrie.
that.
Yeah. Oh, he has ear. Yeah, he's like, quality folks coming in the holler. Yeah. So what's going to happen after the Eversoles move to the holler is we're then going to launch the campaign to try to keep them from finding a homestead close to Carrie. And we're going to try to get them to find one closer to me for their forever home. It's your forever home you're looking for, right?
It is. Yeah. The kids are gone. We still want to see them every now and then. But now that they're gone, the last one just went to college. It's time for us to do our thing. Worry about the kids still, but a little bit less, and just do our thing. What
does your thing look like?
Oh gosh. Go ahead.
Homesteads. Remember we've been we got 21 chickens now. We have 10 raised garden beds. We live on 5 acres, and most of it's up a hill. I mean, our house is way on top of a hill, and behind our house is another big hill, kind of a small pasture area, but then it's all wooded behind there. And it's not the most usable property. So, we're looking for more acreage, probably 15 acres or so would be ideal, and more flat-ish to work with. We want to put in, a pond if there's not one already there, that sort of thing. But we want some sheep. Here's our pup saying hello.
What a
So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. We just want to
downsize in the house too.
Yes, yeah, our house now is like, over 3,000 square feet, 5-bedroom, and it's just me and her. So with the kids gone, 1,800, 2,000 square foot 3-2 will be ideal with a lot more land.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everybody, you guys work from home, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The cool thing when you go digital for work, guys, is that you can live anywhere that has internet.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, I should hook your modem up.
Yep.
I'm not doing it.
Well,
I should get it out of my car before Nighthawk takes my car for the weekend.
Yeah. He's IT. He can hook it up if he needs to.
Yeah. It's not that hard to hook up. Okay, we got a question, a statement from Dawn. She says, I'm going to do a video on flexible fencing plan tactical as soon as I can figure out how to record the process and share it with you. Dawn, would you want to come out here and do it? So tactical, unmute. What's your what's new on the homestead for you this week that we didn't cover?
I don't know. I missed most of the live stream portion because running around taking care of everybody. But yeah, I was just over with the boys and the new dogs, and the boys are definitely ready to move because there's no grass growing over there. So yeah. And they've already been through that section before, so they were basically eating the sprouts that have come back from the last kind of halfway rain that we got. And the girls are ready to move, so I was looking earlier at how I'm going to move them. I've actually come up with what I call a rolling fence system, and I'm finally starting to get it down to where it's actually pretty efficient. I just need a little bit more equipment to be able to do it. If you're running 2 strands of electric, you need 4 reels to be able to do this. And right now I just don't have enough. So I just ordered a bunch of wire. I ordered more step-in post. I ordered a couple of more reels. So hopefully in the next week or so, moving fencing is going to get significantly easier now that I've got kind of a pattern down, and I've started to hone in on some of the stuff that works better than others.
Yeah. Dawn says she won't be down in Tennessee until Self-Reliance Festival, but will be bringing the RV and staying more full time. So that means we can't do the fencing video with her till after SRF tactical.
Yeah.
So, Stephen Tracy, are you wanting to help with the sheep while you're here to figure out to learn how to do that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, y'all are going to get tired of us, I think.
No, I
yeah, because we I mean, we know some about gardening. We know a bit about chickens, but that's why this is such a great experience for us, because we're going to be able to learn a lot more skills, and we love to help. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of what I'm doing right now that is definitely doable by yourself, but it makes it so much easier to have a second person. Just a quick example of that is the way I'm running fencing right now. I will grab 2 reels and roll the wire out, and then I have to turn around and walk back and put the wire onto the post, because I only have 2 hands. So if you have 2 people, one person can carry the reels and the other can just follow behind them and just pop right onto the post. So just little things like, it is literally little things like that become massive when you've got to do that up a 60-degree hill.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, you can watch me trim hooves.
Yes, that's cool. Yeah, excited for that too.
I want to help take care of the baby pigs too.
Yeah, well, they're going to be at your place, so.
Yeah. I'll look out the window and say,
Like,
they're being born right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they might be born this weekend. They might not be born for another week because I know the day that the deal was closed, but that doesn't mean that things took. But something took at some point, so based on the size of her belly. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I wonder how it's going to be with that electric fence if they're going to wander out, Tactical.
Oh.
They should not. It's low enough that they won't go under.
Okay.
There's going to be a learning curve.
Yeah. You don't want to be near her when they find the electric fence because she gets all pissed off. Actually, she got shocked yesterday and got mad at me. She like ran up onto the hill and looked at me suspiciously from the bushes. I was like, I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I was petting your head over the fence and you hit it with your chin.
Oh.
Was she still suspicious this morning, Tactical, or did she come down?
No, she's already over it.
She's over it. Pigs get over things. Not like dogs who hold grudges for years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
You stepped on me that one time. Now I'm afraid of your feet.
yeah.
That's not.
Oh, my dog Sage. I was not even there when this happened. I got her at 12 weeks. Apparently something had fallen on her because anytime anything anywhere in the house fell, she ran and hid. So she'd be in the living room. Something would fall off my decks and obviously make a noise like it fell. And I'd find the dog cowering, like, where is it? It's going to hit me. And one time I did drop something on her and she was pretty traumatized over that for a day. Yeah. But this is the dog who, if weather was happening, you could gauge how bad it was going to be by where she hid. So if she was just huddled up against me, it was scary for her, but not a big deal. Mm-hmm. If she was in the bathroom, it was going to get real. If she was behind the toilet, it was like, maybe I should be behind the toilet too. Or under the bathtub. That was the two places. Yeah.
Oh.
So I'd be like, okay, we're having a behind the toilet scale event. Everybody take cover. Get away from windows.
Something's going on.
So it was a little weird when she passed away. The first storm we had, I was like, wait, my barometer's missing.
Oh.
The other dogs are just like, yeah, we don't like thunder, but whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so you're doing the coop. Are all 21 chickens moving in?
Yes.
Cool.
Next Sunday, we're bringing them.
Right.
Half the trailer is gonna put chicken. Did you buy chicken wire?
Yeah, about like a 50-foot roll of 3-foot wide chicken wire, and I'm just going to make just kind of box in half of the trailer and then zip tie some of that material over the top of it, just kind of keep them.
They're gonna love the trip.
Yeah, right.
We have 2 of them that are really afraid of us, so I don't know how we're gonna catch them. I mean, I'm gonna have to buy like a big net and catch them and reel them in somehow and pull them tight. The other ones, like most of them I could just pick up and carry in there myself, but I don't know what we're gonna do with these 2. They might have to just stay behind. I don't know.
We will chase them into a dog crate or something.
Yeah.
Yep. I have on more than one occasion had a rooster in a dog crate with the car with me.
Yep.
That's fun. Take your car with you.
And yeah, I am going to put a lot of bedding down too in the trailer just because they don't make a mess. But yeah, I think it should work out. I got to figure out what to do for water though. For the actual 2.5 hours or so, the 3 hours that they'll be in there.
I mean, they're probably fine without water unless you're doing it in the heat of the day.
Yeah.
A lot of people move their chickens after the sun has set at night.
Right.
Which we gotta think about that. Maybe first thing in the morning or late at night. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Dawn, when she brought the sheep here, they got up. I don't even know at what time because they got here at 9 a.m. from Ohio. And so I think a lot of their travel was when it was dark, probably with purpose for those sheep. Okay, we got a question from Josie. Is there some kind of ag exemption on properties of 15 acres or more in Tennessee? Curious if that's a thing and what benefits would be. So we have a green belt exemption. I don't remember if it's 15 or 16 acres. When you declare a green belt exception, you have to have a plan, if it's a lumber plan or whatever it is, and you're not allowed to build on that. And then as a result, you pay lower property taxes. If you then later change your mind, retroactively, you have to make up the taxes. So it's important to think about, if you go for the Greenbelt exemption, am I really going to leave this way? Because it can, and if you buy something Greenbelt, that can bite you too. That's actually something you need to look at during your title search when you buy property. Is it Greenbelt, and am I going to build on it? And then what does that do to the exemption? And do I have to make up taxes that were skipped? But yes, I think most states have something like that. Oh, it is 15 acres according to Strong Roots Resources. I couldn't remember if it was 15 or 16. So I don't have enough acreage to qualify for that, but I can still get farm status if I have enough income coming off the property, and then that gives me a tax exempt like a sales tax exempt status at Tractor Supply or wherever, which you can actually just get by incorporating and having a reseller license. But that's a whole different thing anyway. Anything else you guys want to bring up? I'm not seeing a lot of questions in the live chat.
No, I don't have anything.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you later today when you get here. And yeah, hopefully we get the Goodwill stuff out of your way.
And don't forget the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I know. I got a vacuum cleaner and a steam mop. It's no problem. I have 3 vacuum cleaners, actually. 4.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
One of them just like it got stored outside because it was supposed to go down there and it started developing mildew. So I want to vinegar clean it before it goes inside anywhere. So we won't send you that one.
Okay.
Yeah. We just if we could use it tonight, that's all.
That's
right.
fine.
Yeah.
I got my good one is, I can't remember the brand, but it's a name brand and it plugs in and
Awesome.
The only issue is, I'll show you the issue when you get here. So it's like the kind that you can put an attachment in for carpet, but I don't have carpet. And there's a wire in the handle that came out over time because it's old, which means nothing. It's the wire that makes it spin. But if you touch that wire, you get it gets your attention. And maybe I'll just take that as I should duct tape over that today.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for joining in, and we'll see everybody next week with our next broadcast. Don't forget selfreliancefestival.com for tickets, and the Homesteading on a Budget thing is at livefree.academy if you want to check out that workshop. See you next week.